Has time to join. Oh, it is actually 2:00 on the dot. Our minute passed quite quickly. We are going to go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn more about providing quality childcare, 11 rules to live by for childcare centers. Again, my name is Maddie and I will be your host of today's webinar. Before we get started, one very quick, exciting reminder. We are now doing an exciting giveaway in every single webinar. So for all live attendees at our webinar today, all of you have automatically been entered for a chance to win a $50 gift card. The giveaway does change on a weekly basis, so you definitely want to sign up for every webinar, join us live, and you'll see what the giveaway is that day. We will be announcing the winner in our show notes email. So just keep an eye out for that email. We will be getting that out to you by early next week, and we'll announce the winner in there. If you are the winner, we will also be emailing you directly, so you don't have to worry about contacting us. We will make sure that you know you are the winner. And as always, a quick disclaimer before we get started. We do just want to let everybody on our webinar know that the content we are sharing today is not personalized, legal, or financial advice for your center. So the goal today is for you to take away some really great tips and tricks and strategies for your center, for your classroom, for your home, wherever it may be. But if you are looking at making any big changes at your center, we do just want to make sure that you are consulting the right people, such as a legal or a financial advisor. We're now going to give a listen to our land acknowledgement.
Hi Mama acknowledges that our main headquarters is situated in Toronto, Ontario, on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto itself is a word that originates from the Mohawk word takaranto, meaning the place in the water where the trees are standing. As participants and guests in today's webinar, we are coming together from many different places around the world. We encourage you to learn about and acknowledge the land from which you participate.
And we will now give a listen to our diversity and inclusion statement as well.
Hi Mama is committed to fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment for our employees, customers, and community. Hi Mama welcomes and celebrates individuals of all backgrounds, orientations, and identities. Our Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee aims to ensure we provide a safe environment for everyone to thrive while bringing their authentic selves to work. Our mission is to promote an inclusive workspace for all employees through education, discussion, and celebration of our differences. Embracing these differences while coming together with a common purpose is what makes our team extra special.
And a few housekeeping pieces before we get started. As always, today's session is being recorded. So if for any reason at all you have to pop off early, maybe you want to watch it again, share it with a colleague. We are recording today's session and it will be sent out to you with the slides by early next week. Please also know that we are recording with the closed captions enabled. So those will be on in the recording. Though if you do require the closed captions for today's live webinar, please be sure to hit that CC tab on your side of the Zoom so you can use those today. In regards to our certificate, everyone who is here at our live webinar with us today, you will all be receiving a certificate of participation for being here today. We will be getting those certificates out to you by early next week. So do not worry if you do not see it in your inbox today or even tomorrow. We promise we will get those out to you by early next week. And lastly, if you have any issues at all with your Zoom, certainly hope you do not, but if you do have any issues, we just want to make sure that you are contacting the people who know the Zoom product the best. It can help you. That would be the support team over at Zoom, and you can contact them at support.zoom.us. And Hi Mama, a little bit about Hi Mama. If you've never heard of us before, if this is your very first webinar, welcome. Let us know in the chat if this is your very first time joining us. I love to see some of the new names, or maybe you're part of the Hi Mama family. You use Hi Mama at your center. Also, let us know that in the chat. I love to see part of our Hi Mama family here as well. But if you didn't know that on top of our professional development community with our webinars and our podcasts, we are also the #1 rated childcare management app. So Hi Mama helps streamline all of your daily work that you have to do, from observations, attendance, parent communication, photo and video sharing, billing. It's all available for you in Hi Mama to help save you time, to make your lives a little bit easier and help you focus on what matters most, which is being with the children, being with the families. So if you would like to learn more about how Hi Mama can help you at your center, Lena will post a link in the chat so you can come take a tour and see if it's the right fit for you. As well, please know that if you do join the Hi Mama family, I can absolutely promise you, you will receive world-class support. Our customer success team is here to hold your hand and be there with you as you make this change. I used to be on our customer success team, so I can say from firsthand experience, it's an absolutely beautiful group of humans over there who are waiting to help you be successful with this change. Also know, if you weren't aware, that on top of our weekly webinars, that we do also have weekly podcasts. We have hundreds of early learning activities to help you in your home, in your classrooms, at your center, and articles released by industry experts. Make sure to take a look at the world of resources that Hi Mama does have available to you. And also, if you didn't know, Hi Mama is a B certified company. So what that means is, as we work with our fabulous community of educators in the Hi Mama family, we are actively working to make a positive change and impact in the early learning space. Okay, and your hosts. If you've never met me before, My name is Maddie. I am your host of our Hi Mama Helps webinars. I'm a customer advocacy specialist here at Hi Mama, and I'm also one of the early childhood educators here on the team. With me today, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Lena. Lena, welcome. What's going on with you today?
Hi, everyone. This weekend, I'm going on a road trip, so that's going to be fun, I think.
Amazing. Where are you going?
I'm going to head to Ottawa, so it's going to be a nice trip.
Very exciting. And if anyone on here is confused at all, Lena's photo is showing me today, but it is Lena there. She is here on the chat, ready to help you if you have any questions. And finally, last but absolutely not least, our special guests for today, Judy, Nichole, and Marneshia. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Please feel free to pop those cameras on, your mics on. Welcome. Thank you so much to all of you for being here today.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We're so excited to be here.
It's been incredible watching the chat. There's people from everywhere, and I wish we were all in the same room and we could smile and wave, but please know Marneshia, Nichole, and I are extending our hearts to all of you, and we're so happy you're joining us.
I know, so exciting. Maybe one day we can get this in person.
Yes.
But thank you so much for being here. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you have a lot of great content information to share with us. So I am going to go ahead and take a step back, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Madeline. Let's go right ahead to the next slide. So welcome to today's conversation. My name is Nichole Parks. I thank you for joining us, and I am the Director of Programs at Leading for Children. Marneshia, can I pass it to you?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Marneshia Cathey, and I serve as the Center Director for West Point Christian Preschool here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Thank you, Marneshia and Nichole. And I'm Judy Jablon, founder and executive director of Leading for Children, and so happy to be with Nichole and Marneshia and all of you. And thanks, Maddie and Lena, for inviting us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're curious to know, we've said a little bit about who we are and where we're from, but we're curious to know some more about who's with us today. Many of you have already greeted and said hello in the chat and told us where you're from. And we're curious, if you haven't done so, take a moment to enter that. We'd love to know where you're from and maybe the role that you have in the early learning ecosystem.
We have our friend April May from Mississippi. We have people from Massachusetts, from New York, from Texas, from Barbados, Pennsylvania, Ontario, Halifax, Australia. What are you both noticing?
Well,
I'm noticing Virginia, New York.
I saw Bahamas.
I know. Earlier I saw South Carolina, and of course, as a native, that stood out to me. Florida.
And it's so exciting to see we have inclusion specialists and toddler teachers and development specialists and lead teachers, home providers. Yay for you, licensed family group home.
Yay, I saw someone from South Haven, Mississippi.
Another family childcare provider. What a wonderful group, ladies. This is so cool.
So let's start today's conversation. On your screen, you see a quote that we love by Marian Wright Edelman. And she says, "It's hard to be what you can't see." And at Leading for Children, our conviction is really that equity and excellence for young children can truly only happen when early learning systems begin to prioritize equity for the adults that's working with them. So many of us, take a moment to think, many of us entered this field with a genuine desire to make a difference in the lives of children. So we're curious, let's keep talking in the chat. Take a moment and reflect and share, what was one of the reasons that you joined the field of early learning? And while people are chatting, I'd be curious to hear your response, Judy and Marneshia.
Marneshia, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, my background is not early childhood education. And so I kind of fell into the field and fell in love with the field. I've always taken an active role in all of my children's education, been an active parent, a PTO president. And so when, given the opportunity to lead our preschool here at our local ministry, I really wanted to, because I wanted to make sure that other children were getting what I wanted for my own children.
I'm going to pause and share one from the chat because it's very much connected to my motivation and also I think to our conversation today. Tanya, thanks for your comment about making an impact and being a positive role model in young children's lives to help them grow into great adults. There's so many beautiful comments in the chat box. Nichole, how about you?
Really, it started as being curious, just being around children and really wondered the why behind their actions and their behavior. And it just seemed natural for me, and I just fell in love. And looking at the chat, Courtney said to be a part of developing and bringing parents and children together in healthy relationships. And I think, as I continue in the field, that's definitely connected to why I stayed. And you, Judy?
Well, I think it's the impact. And Naomi also says, I wanted to be the reason for children wanting to learn. And I know, I think that is such a motivation for me as well. And Susan says children are our future, which I think is so much a part of why we're here today. These are beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Chanita, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She says, children just amaze me. So upon retiring from serving, the homeless population, I needed a change and I just love it. Well, it's so great to hear from each of you. I think we share a desire for lifelong learning, for responding to children's excitement and curiosity.
Yeah. So as people continue to share, keep chatting. We love to hear your voice, although it be in writing. Think about some of the things that people are sharing to be the reason that children want to learn, these healthy relationships among families and children. In order to achieve these goals, it really means taking a step back and really reversing the trend of hierarchies and silos and those inequitable power balances, along with the overwhelming demands of the day-to-day. It really means we have to bring equity to systems and work to create cultures of shared learning and a collaborative decision-making. And so really when we think about it, we believe all children deserve to thrive. And for that to happen, that every adult, you, myself, Marneshia, Lena, Judy, Madeline, all of us, we have to own and embrace the critical role that we play in the promoting equity for children in our daily decision-making. And we have to make sure that we understand that our decisions are what ensures that children grow and develop in communities where they feel safe and secure. Because how we see ourselves the adults that make up the children's ecosystem, how we treat each other, how we work, it is vital to realizing our dream of quality and equity for every child. So our core belief is quite simple. We believe that a critical step to achieve equity and quality for all children is really to promote inclusive conversations like the one we're having today, where it's easy to comprehend about what quality looks like, what equity and quality feels like, what it sounds like to live together amidst these quality interactions and environments and learning experiences. So as we go to the next slide, let's do some exploration together. Today, we're going to explore an accessible framework for early learning if we keep advancing the 11 simple rules. We're also going to think about how we can use the framework for conversations that include all the important adults in the young child's life. That's all of us, educators, families, administrators, policymakers. I saw someone said grandma in the chat, all of us. And then we're going to explore how in Mississippi, we use the 11 simple rules to build collaboration and consensus about early learning quality, and really be inspired by how West Point is using the 11 simple rules. So as we go to the next slide, I want to just invite us to all take a moment. There's my favorite place. Any place by water is a good place. Let's all take a deep breath, become present and settle in. And Judy, my friend, I'll pass it to you.
So I'm going to invite us to look at the next slide and imagine. Imagine that all adults and all children around us, everywhere, are having relationships and interactions that are open, honest, trusting, and two-way. Just think for a minute about how that might feel. And then imagine our homes, our workplaces, parks, childcare programs. They're safe and calm and organized and respectful. And then imagine that we had the opportunity every day to learn with and from each other in ways that are meaningful, exploratory, and actionable. How would that feel? And what would it do for children? And so when Nichole said equity for children begins with equity for adults, we have to think about how can we have a shared vision, a collective shared vision of what that looks and sounds and feels like. And we believe it's possible. Marneshia being here is an indication that it's possible. We have lots of programs around the country and in other parts of the world that are saying, oh yeah, we can do this. We can come to consensus. It doesn't have to be so complex. So I'm going to invite you to look at this next slide of a beautiful space for children. We work hard to create these beautiful spaces. And then in the next slide, we work hard, that's right from West Point, we work hard to create this amazing moment where children's faces light up and so do their care providers. And we work so hard to make sure meaningful learning is happening for them, which you'll see on the next slide. But what about us? That's your cue, Maddie. What about us, the adults in the lives of children? We are stressed, we feel chaotic, overwhelmed, under pressure. And as a general rule, we do some good work at creating pretty toxic environments for ourselves. And guess what? Children pick up on that. So no matter how beautiful our spaces are for kids, no matter how beautiful the interactions are between adults and children, and no matter how late we stay up making beautiful experiences for children, we have to think about coherence. That's the word on the next slide. We have to think about how the way it is for us has to be in alignment with how it is for kids. This isn't an option. This is an imperative. During this pandemic, everybody has been saying, I'm so stressed. Oh my God, it's so overwhelming. Children pick up on that. And not only that, but there's emotional contagion. If I'm around Nichole and Marneshia and they're stressed, guess what happens to me? But if Nichole greets me with a smile and asks me how I am, my body relaxes. And so we need to create coherence for adults and children by having a consistent understanding of what quality means for us to live and learn together as adults in the same way we want you to create experience. We want to create experiences for children to live and learn together. So to introduce you to our framework of the 11 simple rules, the first thing I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, is close your eyes. Picture a relationship and interaction that makes you feel good. And now imagine you're in a space, your living room, a public library, a beautiful garden that feels great. And now imagine you're doing something. You're in your own garden planting. You're going to a museum. You're looking at photographs. You're reading a book. You're cooking with your favorite cooking partner. You're doing something where your mind is stretching and your curiosity is activated. That's what we want for kids. So please open your eyes and look at what looks like a somewhat complicated framework on our next slide. There are those relationships and interactions I just had you visualize. The emotional and physical environment, learning experiences. And here are the 11 simple rules: honest, trusting, open, two-way, calm, safe, organized, respectful, meaningful, exploratory, actionable. I believe that every one of the very many people that are on this webinar today can picture what those words mean. It's not 375 early learning standards that you can't memorize and nobody else can either. It's not a whole lot of stuff that sits on a binder on a shelf. It's a conversation starter that together creates a space for us to thrive. Thank you for that, true, Nada. And that allows us to create improved outcomes for children. These to us are the important areas for quality, and these are the simple rules. And on the next slide, we say these 11 slides together lead to thriving communities. Marneshia?
That was well said, Judy, and that is so true for us as well. These 11 rules we're calling them rules, but they have really become a part of who we are and how we govern ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And it's not only showing up and has had a great impact here at our preschool, but what I'm finding out as I engage in conversation is it's showing up in individuals' personal lives as well. And one significant way it shows up is the emotional and physical environment. I think that's my favorite rule because I'm an administrator and I love organization. And that has caused us to be very intentional from the moment our guests arrive on our campus to when we greet students at our front, greet students and parents at our front door. We want to make sure that they are arriving to a safe, like Judy said, and organized, definitely a respectful and a calm environment. Because one thing I constantly share with my staff is we never know the setting that our students are coming from. And so we want to make sure that we're very intentional with the setting that they're coming to.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Nichole.
Yeah, as we get ready to take a closer look at each dimension, Marneshia, I have so much appreciation for what you said, especially having spent time in your program and with the program staff and families, because it's so important that we understand these simple rules, as we call them, are not a check off of a list, but rather it's how we are. It's how we choose to show up with and for each other. So let's take a closer look as we go to the next slide. So the first dimension is relationships and interactions. So we invite you, take a moment and look at the photos, and using the chat, what do you notice as you look at them? Smile wants. Oh, Walda, I hope I said your name correct. Kim said touch. Mimi said they are present. Ooh, the chats are moving. I love that. Rosalind said physical touch. Sandra said everyone happy smiling. Happy smiling. That's such a beautiful phrase. Wow, it's going. Marie said interactions. So let's take a closer look at this. As we go to the next slide, let's look at one of the simple rules in this dimension, which is two-way. Take a moment and think. When you hear the word two-way, what words come to mind? Encourage, said Rosalina. Denise said happy people. Reciprocal, said Marissa. Engagement. Connection, said Kim. Back and forth. Thank you for that. Serve and return, Patchy. I hope I said that correctly. Reciprocity. Yes. Together.
Togetherness.
Togetherness. Yes. So let's take a moment to think. Why is it important? So we said mutuality, reciprocity, respect, equal relationships,
Teamwork.
Why does it matter? Because in a two-way relationship, it means that there is equal space when we think about equity, and there's equal value for the thoughts and ideas of all involved, whether that be adult to child, adult to adult, child to child. And when you choose to engage in a two-way relationship, you shift from that traditional you and me way of thinking to us. And that's really what I'm enjoying about today's conversation. It very much feels like a us, even though we're not in the same room. So in a two-way relationship, there's equal space for people's ideas. Both people are seen and heard, and both or all, there could be more than two people in this interaction. They approach it with respect, and that's really important. So as we go to the next slide, let's take a moment. Think about what a two-way relationship looks and feels like. Which one of these feelings is most important to you? I feel welcome into the conversation. I am more confident in expressing myself. I'm curious about hearing another's perspective. I can find common ground with another person.
So welcomed, confident, curious, common ground. Marneshia, I'm curious, when you look at this and you think sort of about your program, when you think about the learning network, which one jumps out for you?
I think the first one, I feel welcomed into the conversation. Just to know that our voices are valued and our opinions are respected and they matter, I think has just been the greatest takeaway from, this whole experience with Leading for Children. And, was one of the reasons why we invited, other people from our preschool to the table to participate in this, because their voices mattered. And we wanted them to know that and be a part of that. But not only that, we wanted to hear from them so that we can come together and, like you've been saying, Judy and Nichole, provide equity, for our children and make sure that they're getting everything that they could possibly, receive so that they can launch into their future.
It is interesting when I think back to getting to know the teachers in your program and the families that participated just over the course of the time that we all worked together in the network, just how much as people relaxed and felt seen and heard, their contributions were invaluable, and the way that they were learning with and from one another was just dazzling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it builds so much on what Mimi just shared in the chat. You can't demand respect from a child or anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You need to offer respect as well. And so much about the way that we choose to show up using these rules is about respect. And overwhelmingly in the chat, there's a lot of conversation around common ground and trust and belonging. Some people say welcome, some are saying belonging, being mattered matters. I can let my voice be heard, said Benny. Yeah, nice. So let's take a moment to look at an actual interaction in a photo on the next slide. And I'm already smiling because this is one of my favorite in the world. Yeah. And I am so humbled that we were actually able to be in the room to witness this. But in this photo is Sage, who is the infant, and Mrs. Robinson, who is the amazing caregiver and educator shown there. What do you notice about this photo that says two-way?
Eye contact.
Yes, eye contact. Kim says connection and safe. Dandria said Mrs. Robinson is at the child's level. More about eye contact. Kim said open body language. Andrea said on the floor. And to that, Aviance added proximity. Christine said they're facing each other. Doris said feeling safe, the eye contact. Yeah.
The thing that I have to interject here, because for us in our field, think how many workshops everybody's been to about teacher-child interactions where there's PowerPoint slide after PowerPoint slide telling us how to do it. Whereas we put this slide up and look at the wisdom that pops into that chat box. And that's why these simple rules are so powerful, because they speak to everyone's soul and everybody has wisdom about them. Sorry, Nichole,
Oh, no, that's beautiful. I was looking for it because, Denise said they are communicating with the eyes. Beautiful. And Rosie said the infant is responding with just a look. So thank you all for that. And let's share a strategy, because the wisdom is in the room. So we want to share a strategy about how you can elicit wisdom from your colleagues and peers in a room too, around what it looks like to be two-way. So elicit the group's wisdom. What you can show a photo or video and said, what do you see that exemplifies two-way? Similar to what we did here today, because when you have these conversations, then it allows us to build shared understanding of the characteristics of that specific simple rule, which is very powerful. And with that, Judy, I believe I am passing it to you.
Sure.
Oh, yes, well, before we do, Marneshia, I'm just thinking about, is there anything else you want to share around two-way before I hand it over to Judy?
I do, Nichole. Thank you so much. When I was looking at the photo of Miss Robinson and the child, it was such an impactful photo. And because we were not there, we were not present in the room, we were just shown the photo like you all are seeing it today. And my teacher, one of my staff members, teachers, was so moved by the photo. Her statement was, I want to be a secure base for my students. And I thought that that was such a powerful statement. And I mean, when I heard that, it so resonated with me that I lead with that statement in so many other areas, of my life. And not only was my staff moved, but my parents, who I invited to participate in the network, it was a mom and a dad. They took the inspiration from this photo and other interactions, and they said, I want to be more present for my own family and children. And so it's such a beautiful back and forth, and just to be able to glean all of this wisdom and knowledge just from this photo, it was just an awesome experience.
Thank you for that, Marneshia. And so what we hope you're holding on to right now, as we refer to these as the 11 simple rules, is just looking at the chat at how many voices have spoken up and responded to the idea of two-way, to looking at this photo. Imagine we had the time to look at photos of adult-adult interactions in different settings, a supervisor with a teacher, a coach with a teacher, a parent and teacher in a conference. Start to visualize all of those things and invite everybody to talk about how can they be two-way. We don't have to train people to do that. We just have to invite the conversation. And that's why this is such an imperative. And as Marneshia told in the story about Jasmine, it's infectious in the best possible way, that people don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to do it wrong. People just need to get ignited to do it right. So let's go to the next slide and think about one more, Maddie, thanks. And think about the second area, or the second dimension of this path to quality, the emotional and physical environment. And Marneshia talked about how that's so important to her in her program. The slide on the left is actually a director's office. The slide on the right is a preschool classroom. What are some things you notice about it? What words come to mind? Let's see that chat go wild. Calm. Calming colors. So calm is one of the simple rules. Calm and safe, 2 of the simple rules. Simple, organized, 3 of the simple rules. Peace goes with calm. Zen, organized. Simple, not overwhelming. Clear. Those are words that get at respect. So our simple rules are calm, safe, organized, and respectful. Not overstimulated, clean and relaxed. So let's go to the next slide and think about one of the simple rules, which is respectful. What does it mean? So even though there are words here on the slide, put in the chat box, what are some things that come to mind when you think about environments that are respectful? Can't wait to see what comes. I matter in this space, accessible, welcoming. So there in this classroom in Alabama, the child is the photograph. That's the first step in the morning routine. So if we say, what does it mean? Well, it means I matter. Well, why does respectful matter? Each person is welcomed, represented, and respected. Whether it's your home, your garden, your library, your classroom, your director's office, having an environment that creates a certain mood sets a climate that allows everyone to be successful. So let's go to the next slide and do that same thing. So what's most important to you when you think about a respectful emotional and physical environment? I can interact in the space as my whole self. Diverse perspectives are equally valued. I can learn and ask questions without fear of judgment. Each group member feels empowered to share. We're curious to know, does one stand out for you? Are they all important? Mimi says diverse perspective. Risa says all of them are important. Kimberly says learn and ask questions without fear of judgment. What about my friends, Marneshia, Nichole?
Yeah, I like each group member is empowered to share.
Yeah, me too, Marneshia. And also this idea that I can interact in the space as my whole self, you know. Frankly, I don't want to leave parts of myself at the door. And I find it, you know, disrespectful when people say leave it at the door. So yeah, that's really important to me.
So think about imagine that we were 10 of us or 12 of us sitting together, either on Zoom or in the same space. And we just got into a conversation about what this means. Everybody's awareness gets lifted, whether I'm the mom, whether I work in the kitchen, in the program, you know, wherever I am, I'm suddenly thinking about respectful environments. And that's why we say these 11 simple rules take us on the path to equity. So we're going to go to the next slide. And we're going to look at 3 different moments of environment. And all of these are from programs. On the left, it's a program from San Francisco where the director had a shout out board and families and colleagues could put shout outs to members of the staff. The top is a classroom in Connecticut where there are photos of children and families from each child's home. The slide on the bottom is from Arizona, and notice how children's artwork is displayed. Notice something that says respect to you in these photos and feel free to put it in the chat box. And meanwhile, Nichole and Marneshia, do either of you want to comment on these 3 photos and what speaks respectful to you?
The ones with the family, Judy, I identify with because we also do something similar in our program. And for the kids to be able to come into their space and see familiar faces is definitely a calming thing for them. It does speak to respect, like, you know, we're honoring all of our families, you know, the dynamics. We have grandmothers who are raising, you know, grandchildren. So that one speaks to me a lot.
Marissa says, I am heard and seen, valued and celebrated. That is such a great summary. Nichole, do you want to add anything?
I am always just delightfully drawn into the display of the art for the children. What I really appreciate is the equity and respect in the way that they are displayed. And you can just tell that each child felt free to really have their own creation. And so I just think that really speaks to respect on so many levels.
Melissa in the chat agrees with you. She points out the intention and the respect. Yeah, and you know, it's just so easy to think about how does this show up again in settings where we all live and work and function together. So Marneshia, you mentioned a little bit about how this rule, this dimension of the emotional and physical environment really speak to you. Is there anything you want to mention about how you've used this aspect of the 11 simple rules in your program?
Yeah, it has definitely given us, me and my staff, common language that we can have conversations around. And so when we say quality, we all come to the table with some specific descriptive words, but then we bring our collective voices and those words are expanded. So we're able to discuss more about what we want, for our students. Yeah, and then even with how we engage our parents now and just teaching and educating them. Nichole, I too love the artwork display. And I was just thinking, as a young mom, when my kids would bring their artwork home, I didn't do a very good job at beautifully displaying it. We laugh about it now because we pull out stuff and we find old art projects or Christmas things that they wanted to hang on my beautifully decorated tree. And so going through this, I was like, I was not very respectful of
You were juggling a lot.
Right. So now, just having participated just in this, and like I said, these simple rules becoming a part of who you are, now you understand better the importance of being respectful of people's voices through art, or even the environment. Like I said, I didn't come from this background. And so when I first started setting up the preschool, I wanted all of these things that were pretty, but had no purpose. And so as I learned, I began to, not that things couldn't be pretty and colorful, but I learned that things should have purpose, because kids could be, even adults can become so overly stimulated by all of these things in the classroom, and the teacher or no one ever referenced them or mentioned them. And so that's what I continuously share with my staff. Like, why is that poster on the wall? Does it have purpose? How are you going to use it? Why does your quiet space have those things in it? How are you going to use it? So we've become even more intentional in setting up our spaces.
Thank you so much for that. So let's look at a second strategy on the next slide. So if you notice on the right, what we've done is we've created a little text message. It has some text at the top. It has a photo. This to us represents respect, because in order for the child to get a drink of water, she needs to use a little staircase. And so we sometimes send these out, directors send them out, coaches send them out, but teachers often will do them with each other, of go on a hunt for quality and look for examples of respect in the environment. So again, it's suggesting it's there. We just need to find it, celebrate it, magnify it, and do it more. Okay, and I will pass it to you, Nichole, for the next dimension.
Thank you, Judy. As we advance to the next slide, the third dimension is learning experiences, which is one of my absolute favorites. And it's really all about how we learn together. So I want to invite you to hold on to that word. As we go to the next slide, take a moment to think, what words come to mind? What do you think of when you hear the word exploratory, which is one of the simple rules? So the simple rules, I forgot to say, for learning experiences are exploratory, meaningful, and actionable. So as we think about exploratory, what words come to mind? Using your senses, says Sarah. Play, says Heidi. I can get my hands dirty and mess around, Judy. Yes. Growth, said Deborah. Hands-on, Rosie says. Teamwork, yes, a big part of learning. Imagination, curiosity, freedom. Yes, we said that. I love that, Jaleesa. Freedom, discovery, touch and feel, finding my way around. And so think about it. In an exploratory experience, each person can bring their own unique interests and questions to the situation. And And we really have to consider equity in both the process and the content of learning. So as we advance to the next slide, take a moment to think about exploratory and why it's so important to you. I can approach new information in a hands-on way. I can experiment with different ideas. I can take the lead in choosing topics. I can harness my creativity. We're curious to hear what stands out for you. And while people are chatting, Judy or Marneshia, would you like to share yours?
I'm torn.
I think I can approach new information in a hands-on way. It reminds me of seeing things through my granddaughter's eyes. And so I'm relearning and seeing things with fresh eyes. Again, just, because I'm doing them with her and I'm learning new things as a result of doing them with her. So I think that's the one that speaks to me the most.
And I think I'm with Kim. She says hands-on and curious and choice. And I think that's important to me as well. There's a lot of variety. There's definitely creativity, imagination, creativity. There's lots of different, and I think that's part of this, that what's powerful about exploratory learning experiences is that you can approach them in so many different ways.
So many.
Yeah. And there's so much equity in there, that too, right?
Yeah.
To not have to approach it one way, but to be able to follow what's curious for me. So as we advance to the next slide, it makes me think about the story of Marion, who was a family member in the Mississippi Learning Network. And she talked about how after we discussed exploratory in our learning network, on one of her trips to the grocery store, she chose to play I Spy with her children. And she talked about how that became such a wonderful trip for all of them as they just began to explore around them. So Marneshia,
Yes.
is there anything you'd like to share about how you're using exploratory in your program?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of centers do this at the beginning of the school year. Students create "It's All About Me" posters, and they hang them up on the wall. But what our staff has done is to allow our students to share with their peers about their "All About Me" poster and activate curiosity by asking questions. And it's just so amazing to see and hear the different questions that come from their peers, and then how the other student responds to those questions. So that's one way, is just making sure that, again, that activity becomes more exploratory, and it's not just pretty posters on the wall. And then even with how I do my performance appraisal process with my staff, again, it goes back to that two-way relationship and having open and honest, dialogue, and just, again, being more exploratory with just how we can change things and do things better, allowing them to have input in what we're doing here at the center. So those are just, two ways that stand out.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Marneshia. As we go to the next slide, we want to share a strategy. And one is to create local resources. So on your screen, there's the 11 simple rules that's specific for Mississippi, that actually has photos and real life examples from Marneshia program, as well as 3 of the others. And then there's also the one that we did in Wyoming that has the same Wyoming real life stories of families and children and teachers and real experiences and photographs. So, and as we prepare to turn it back over to the hands of Madeline, I would like to wrap this up by saying that we really do believe that these 11 simple rules, the way that we choose to show up with and for each other, that it creates stronger collaboration and equity, and that it does become really the model of what we want children to experience and how we want them to grow. So as we turn it over to Madeline, take a moment to think, how might the 11 simple rule framework support coherence, collaboration, and equity for you? And we'd invite you to write that down and capture it for yourself. Returning it back to you, Madeline.
Thank you so much, Nichole, Marneshia, and Judy. That was absolutely fabulous. That was such an engaging and insightful session. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. Before we start to wrap up, just for our audience here, as always, I am going to go ahead and launch our questions of the day to you all. So today, we're curious to know, how do you communicate and collaborate with the families at your center to provide quality care for the children and keep those relationships going and growing? Do you do face-to-face communication? Is it through the phone, call, text, WhatsApp? Maybe you use pen and paper, or maybe you're using childcare app like Hi Mama. We'd love to know, what are you currently doing at your center? And also let us know if you are interested in learning how Hi Mama can help you really grow those relationships between parents and educators, parents and administration, by being able to have that constant communication about what is going on with their child on a deep and meaningful level. And lastly, go ahead and let us know if you submit the Hi Mama webinar certificates to your local licensing agency. Thank you so much, everybody. We are almost at the end of our webinar, so we won't have too much time for a Q&A today, but we do have 2 minutes. I'm going to squeeze one in really quickly. What I'd love to kind of leave our audience with today, you shared so many great stories and pieces of advice for how to bring those 11 rules into the classroom. As we all leave and go back into our classrooms and go back into our homes, what is one practical strategy, like one first step for the directors on here who want to start implementing this right away in their center? Maybe Marneshia, you can share the very first thing you did as you brought this into your centers. What's kind of one, actionable step we can leave our audience with today? The first one you'd recommend?
Yeah, look at things with fresh eyes. I think that's the biggest one, because like Judy said, we're so used to seeing what's wrong that oftentimes we miss what's right. So start looking at what you're doing right and see those things with fresh eyes.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a beautiful piece of advice there. And also something I feel like we should do probably more often is reflect on all the good things we're doing as well.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Judy, Nichole, Marneshia, thank you so, so much for being here with us today and sharing your time, your knowledge, your stories with us. That was such a fabulous session. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Before I do end our webinar today, one quick reminder for the giveaway. Keep an eye out for the show notes email early next week. We will announce the winner in the show notes email. Super exciting. So keep your eyes peeled. It just might be your name in that email. And before we wrap up, next week, same time, same place, we are talking about creating an inclusive learning environment at your center. Thursday, June 30th, 2:00 Eastern time. We will be back here, and I hope you are as well. Lena has posted a link in the chat so you can sign up already for next week's webinar. And lastly, if you have not connected with us yet on any of our social media platforms, please know we have a Facebook Circle Time group. There are tons of educators in there sharing ideas, tips and tricks, activities for the summer. It's a really fun group. Please go ahead and join us in there. And also know that we do have an Instagram page where we do announce upcoming events and our upcoming webinars. So go ahead and give us a follow there so you can keep up to date with what's going on at Hi Mama. Otherwise, it's 3:00. I will let you all get back on with your day, but thank you so, so much for being here with us today. And I hope to see you all next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.